let's start with bees. Do you know how it is for bees? And when I say it, I mean, you know, it. Sex. For bees. Do you know how it works? One worker is selected out of all the others to mate with the queen. Just one, who probably thinks it's going to be the best night of his life. Oh God, he's so wrong. He follows the queen out of the hive, and together they soar towards the sky. They couple there, right in midair, in the midst of the high blue sky. They climax, whatever that means to a bee, and part. But the male sexual organ stays where it is, i.e. in the queen. It just comes off, and the queen flies away with it, and all the male's insides fall out. That's the bees. Don't even get me started on the birds. You go down your nearest duck pond and watch the ducks going at it. That'll tell you all you need to know about what it's like for the birds. There's not a lot of roses and champagne, I'll tell you that. I'm 28. I'm neither a bird nor a bee. I'm a man. Or near enough. Joy was going to be the one. My first. You know full well what I mean. Don't pretend you're shocked. It's not like you looked at me and thought, bad teeth, check. M&S slacks, check. Christy Burr hair, check. This guy, he's been around. This guy knows one end of a woman from the other. This guy's bedpost is probably notched to a spindle. No. I am what I look like, I know that. But it seemed like it was going to work out all right, because Joy looked like a 28-year-old virgin too. Mushrooms, she said. It's always mushrooms. I'm sorry, I said. I always say that. I should say what, or pardon. I'd probably sound more virile. But the thing is, I am sorry. I'm always sorry. I feel sorry. The veggie option. Oh. Mushrooms or goat's cheese. And if you say, I'm sorry, I'm a vegetarian, but I don't like goat's cheese or mushrooms, have you got anything else? They look at you like you're mad. I looked at her like she was mad. It isn't as though, she said, goat's cheese is even a vegetable. We were alone at the trestle table on which the unsatisfactory corporate buffet had been laid out. I nodded musingly. She'd made a fair point. A mushroom isn't a vegetable either, I offered. It's a fungus. Exactly. They might as well offer you a piece of laminate flooring to eat, I said. She laughed. Yes, or a lampshade. We went on like that for a bit. I mean, I'd say X thing that hasn't got meat in it, but also wouldn't be a nice thing to eat, and then she'd say Y thing along the same lines, and then we'd laugh and then repeat the process. It was lovely. She sort of spoiled it when she said, or a dog poo! Not only because it is a bit coarse, but also because a dog poo probably wouldn't be vegetarian anyway. But still, she was lovely. It was lovely. She was small, 5'2", 3, slender, but her breasts were quite big. She'd arranged a sort of scarf or pashmina across her chest so as to hide how big they were. Not, I think, out of any less is more aesthetic or feminist philosophy, but just because she didn't feel like a girl with big, sexy breasts, even though she was one. So it didn't seem right for her to go around looking like one. We both drank warm wine out of plastic cups and talked in the corner for so long that before we knew it, we'd missed the chairman's welcome and I was late for my plenary session. Before I went, I asked her out. Well, sort of. We should go out for a proper drink sometime, I said. We should, she said. So I didn't really ask her out. I just posited the hypothesis and she affirmed it. 6 weeks later, seeing as that had worked quite well, so we'd consequently been out for a number of proper drinks, 3 trips to the cinema at the local arts centre, 2 restaurant dinners, and 1 hand-in-hand walk to the top of the park to watch the sun go down, I tried the same thing. I said, we should, you know. She smiled. I just wanted to say, yes, we should. Instead, she said, we should what? I blushed. We were in the park and the sun, as expected, had gone down, so she couldn't see me blush, but still, all I could do was stammer. You know, we should, you know. Do you mean fuck? She put her hand down the front of my trousers. Yes, she said, we should. That was even better than if she just said, yes, we should. I was starting to think that this was going to be the best night of my life. Now, look, I know what you're thinking, and no, my sexual organs didn't drop off. She didn't run away with it still inside her. My insides didn't all fall out. That would have been ridiculous. It would also have been an improvement on what actually did happen. Or rather, what didn't. It's okay. You're nervous. I am too, I understand, it's okay. At least the male bee gets to have a moment. Even if it is just a moment. Just a fleeting, soaring, sunlit moment. Before everything goes wrong. The counsellor asked me if I was conscious of feelings of anxiety on occasions other than during times of sexual intimacy. On my medical notes, she confided, the GP who referred me to her had written that I appeared a bit nervous. I said, yes, sometimes. Sometimes, I said, when a man I have never met before is palpating my testicles, rolling the foreskin back and forth like he's adjusting the rubber grip on his cricket bat, and asking me how erect my penis is on a scale of 1 to 5 when I masturbate. Yes, sometimes when that happens, I feel what could be clinically described as a bit nervous. She laughed, the counsellor. Okay, she said, but apart from that. I shrugged, not really. She leaned forward, elbows on knees, ringed fingers intertwined, and said, talk me through it. Like a footballer analysing a playback in the post-match interview. Yeah, well, all credit to Steve, he really is done brilliant to beat the full-back and pull him across, and I managed to find a few feet of space and stick out a foot, and luckily for me, it's gone in the back of the net. Only, of course, in my case, it hasn't. Metaphorically speaking, it hasn't gone anywhere near the back of the net. Metaphorically speaking, I haven't even stuck out a foot. I said to her wryly, while fidgeting and avoiding eye contact, and she laughed again and said, just describe the experience as best you can. Deep breath. Bees, I said. I was thinking about bees. I told her how it had been, how we'd been there, enjoyed single bed, both undressed, pale, me fumbling to find room on the bedside table to put my glasses, she squirming out of her sensible knickers, clumsily kissing all the while both pretty new to this, she perhaps not as new as me, my body eventually settling as though by default between her spread legs, her whispered, nervous giggle, and a nod of excited assent, the soapy smell of her dry brown hair, a moment's suspension, a moment's abeyance, like a thing thrown in the air when it reaches the high point of its parabola and seems to pause before it falls. In recalling it in the counsellor's claustrophobic office, I think of Wile E. Coyote. 6 feet beyond the cliff edge, legs pinwheeling frantically to find a purchase in thin air. But at that time, all I could think of was the male bee's sexual organ. How it simply detaches, I told the counsellor, how it simply comes off, as though that's all there is, as though that's all the bee was for. And the queen, the way she seems to just say, I'll take that, thank you, and off she's gone forever. As far as the male is concerned, because for the male, everything's gone forever. His insides have come spilling out. His body's just a tiny little pyjama case, emptied of its pyjamas, just falling. The counsellor interjects to ask me if by any chance I had a pyjama case in the shape of a bee when I was a little boy. And I said, yes, I did, a plush one. In the shape of a bumblebee, and the zip always jammed, but that isn't the point. I was on a bit of a roll. I told her about the dreams. I wondered if they might mean something. Dreams? Well, yes, not every night. Just some nights, well, most nights. I dream I have a son. It's mine and Joy's son. We're in the park and I'm holding his little hand and he's wearing mittens. The counsellor smiled and tilted her head. We're in the park, I said. We've got a plastic bag of stale bread. We've come to the duck pond. We've come to feed the ducks. He throws a few crumbs into the water. They all come splashing over, the mallards, you know how they are. Again, the sympathetic smile. Again, the compassionate head tilt. Well, just at this point in the dream, I said, I kneel down beside my son and put an arm around his shoulders, and I start telling him about a duck's sexual organs. The sympathetic smile froze on the counsellor's face. I carried on. I tell him that the male duck's sexual organ is shaped sort of like a corkscrew or like a bolt with a thread, where you have to screw it into its nut with a spanner. It's true, it is. And the thing is, I tell him, that the female duck's sexual organ is shaped like a nut, but it's the wrong sort of nut. The threads don't match up. He goes this way, and hers goes that way. Because the thing is, that while the male duck really wants to put his organ in her organ, the female duck really, really wants him not to. Nature's made them that way. Nature's made it so that having sex is really, really hard work. If you're a duck, and sometimes if you're not a duck. The counsellor, having recovered a degree of poise, nods and gulps. Every night, this is what you dream. Most nights. She nodded and mustered a smile and made a brief note on the file. A few platitudes and positive thinking slogans saw us through to the end of the session. She thanked me, I thanked her, I stood to leave, she stood to usher me across the 18 inches of carpet that separated me from the door. Well, I'll see you, she began as I shrugged on my coat. I pounced. I snatched the manila file, my medical file, from her hand and fanged it open. She protested, with a shrillness that I'd always suspected lay beside her dangly earringed counsellor's facade. But I had a right to read it. I knew it, and I held her at bay with an outstretched arm. The last typed entry on the last page read, severe sexual dysfunction. Beneath it, in blue biro, she had written, probably for the best.